Hey guys, this is Fang Session VA here coming at you with a new Random Friday video special. And in today's video, since it is getting closer to Halloween, I figured we would talk about my favorite horror franchise of all time, the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. So if you're new here, make sure to comment, like, and subscribe. And definitely make sure to hit the notification bell to get all of my uploads. So yeah, let's get started here. Now, it is no secret that this channel used to be basically a hobby channel. And if you go back to my channel, you would see pretty much Star Wars, Godzilla, and horror movie stuff. And of course, some rants. Yeah, I got triggered a lot by like a lot of things. And if you don't know the history of my channel, basically, I've always had aspirations to be a content creator. You know, I used to edit. You know, I was so passionate, and I'm so passionate about doing it. I used to edit all my videos on my PS3 with that video function that they had, and then I would transfer the file over to a USB stick and then upload it to YouTube that way. And it worked. I mean, I got some decent views on those older videos. I'm not gonna lie. You know, that was pretty much what I was wanting to be. I was wanting to be a Piswell, CCH, you know, you name it. That's what I wanted to be. The problem was that I didn't have a job. I couldn't afford what they were buying. So I had to and what really kind of also promoted this change was I made this mask beginner guide. And I thought it was time that someone had something like this, because I would see in these mask groups somebody asking, hey, you know, what's the best Michael Myers mask? And, you know, people would always, you know, just toss different masks at the person. And I know that if that was me, I would get super overwhelmed. And when I saw that it didn't do as well as I thought, I kind of canned that type of content, and I moved on to doing what I'm doing now, basically. So, with that said, let's get started talking about my favorite franchise. The first movie I ever saw was the 2000. It was when me and someone that I don't talk to anymore was watching horror movies, because I've always had this interest in it. I've always been curious about it since I was younger, but I was too gosh darn afraid of it until I was ready. And I was ready in Halloween of 2011. But I didn't fully, that kind of planted the seed in my head, but I didn't start watching into them until summer time of 2012, something like that. And one of the first movies I saw was the Texas Chainsaw Massacre remake. And after that, I became a big horror fan. Halloween of that year, I got a double pack of the 2000 remake and its prequel, Texas Chainsaw Massacre: The Beginning from 2006. I got the Nightmare on Elm Street Blu-ray collection, which honestly is about time we got a updated collection with some bonus features. Shout Factory, get on that, please. And this free movie pack that had Halloween, Halloween, Crystal Michael Myers, Halloween H2O, and everyone's favorite Halloween Resurrection. And I use that term, everyone's favorite, loosely. And because of me having access to the remake and now me being able to watch the prequel movie, I could watch those movies at any time. I didn't have to worry about those movies being taken off streaming because they lost, the license. The freaking license expires, which is why physical media is still important even in free, because this way, when you buy a movie at a store, you can play it at any time you want. I don't believe that humans want streaming and digital to take over. We all like to own things. Just saying. So, after watching the remake, I wanted to go as that Leatherface for Halloween. Problem was, the only mask you could get was the crappy Ruby's one. This was before Trick or Treat Studios was even a thing. And this was way before they got the license to the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. And then I stumbled upon a mask known as the Tommy 3.0, made by AM Creations. This was the first indie I ever saw. It was also a remake Leatherface mask. And at the time, it was the most accurate remake Leatherface mask you could get. One problem. The dude is notorious of being hard to deal with. Because there are times that when you get a mask from him, he would tell you, like, yeah, I'll get you your mask in about a few months, and then a few months go by, there's no shipping confirmation, there's nothing, there's no updates from him. So yeah. Plus, at the time, I would have been able to get one of those masks at that time, anyways, if I'm remembering correctly. Again, I'm not going to delve too much into my family's personal life and financial stuff and all that. So, I basically gave up. The only time I got to experience being Leatherface at all was literally I made this. Back in the day, it used to be where people would make Facebook pages to portray characters. And then it moved on that people would make pages, would make accounts. And that's what I did with this Leatherface. And that's how I met my good buddy, Jack Chap 1. And long story short, thanks to being very, very good friends with him, actually we're pretty much like family, along with Justin Goldblatt, another good buddy of mine that I bought my Friday the 13th Part 5 hockey mask from. I now have one of those Tommy 3.0s in my collection. One problem. That mask is no longer considered the most accurate. And that's the thing with me. I'm always chasing the accuracy with my costumes. The most accurate mask is known as the Batman V2 by Art by UM. Problem is, he's one of the mask makers that does limited runs. And I know some people might say, well, why weren't you guys fast enough? We were. We were just a millisecond too late. And unless for some strange reason, because I know that right now he plans on putting out a bust, unless he offers a package to where you can get, a Batman V2 with the bust, I'm going to have to get that mask secondhand. And the thing is, with getting, especially, masks secondhand, you're dealing with people up in the price than what they bought it originally. And I'm someone that is a bit, I guess you can say that, even though I understand when they, make these limited runs, I'm not a big fan of it because, like when it comes to silicone masks, I get it. I get why people make those limited. But latex, I could never quite understand that. And this is a problem that doesn't exist in the Myers community all that much. It's only the Leatherface community that I have to deal with this. And it's mainly a me problem. It's mainly a me problem because of the fact, during these last 4 years, I wasn't really looking at masks. I wasn't really doing anything that deals with those communities anymore because there wasn't, I got into a bubble. So, yeah. So, anyways, let's get back to talking about the Texas Chainsaw Massacre before this becomes a mask community rant video, if you will. So, then, of course, naturally, with me being a big fan of the remake, I wanted to see the other movies in the franchise. So I ended up getting the Texas Chainsaw Massacre 1974. It was a steelbook release from Dark Sky Films, and I still have that release too. And I remember first watching it, and it made me uncomfortable, especially that dinner scene with Sally being strapped to the chair. Anyone that has seen that has seen that movie, y'all know what I'm talking about. If you guys haven't seen it, look it up on YouTube. Better yet, it's Halloween season. How about you go watch the movie on a streaming platform, or maybe go out and buy yourself the Blu-ray copy or 4K. So at first I was like, I don't think I liked it. I think I prefer the remake because it's like, naturally, I'm going to be honest. And before anyone decides to jump down my throat, my first experience with Leatherface was the remake, and he's brutal in that movie. Seeing how Gunnar Hansen portrayed Leatherface, it wasn't what I was expecting. But over multiple re-watches, well, my top 3 Texas Chainsaw Massacre movies are the original, the remake, and the 2006 prequel to the remake. I love the freaking original. I own, and I'm pretty sure I can now talk about this, even though I made a promise to him when I first made the mask I wouldn't feature it on my channel at all. I do own a Connor Dealer killing mask. You know, and going back to I made that promise. It's not like he's making them anymore. I mean, yeah, I I still want one of his pretty woman Leatherface masks though. That's still on my that's still on the top of my list. But it is what it is. Like I said, it's a me problem. Um so I forgot the order I watched the movies in, but I experienced part two. And even though I enjoyed it, I was definitely taken back by how comedic it was, which was, the point of the movie, right? Toby Hooper wanted to really wanted to do more the dark comedy that he felt that people kind of overlooked in the first Texas Chainsaw Massacre. And to that I say, well, yeah, people were probably more worried about, probably, people probably really freaking scared. So, of course, I'm sure back then people didn't overlook it. It was so much that they were probably scared out of their mind. I have family members that saw that movie when it first came out. That movie, when it gets going, it freaking hits you hard. Um, and then of course, I was able to see part three eventually, which we just lost the director of that movie actually, so may he rest in peace. Um, and yet again, I didn't mind part three. I definitely liked how Leatherface was in that movie. It was more closer to like I've always liked it when Leatherface is like a lot more aggressive. If people haven't picked up on it, but when it comes to Gunnar Hansen Leatherface, I mean that dude, really played Leatherface perfectly in that freaking original movie. Let me tell you, he's the only one that I like playing the more, I guess, how to word this. I don't know if this is the right word to use. Original version of the character from the first Texas Chainsaw Massacre, but you know, you can actually feel sympathy for him because of how Gunner portrayed him. He did come off very scared, especially when after he takes out Jerry, he goes out and basically using only body movements. Like, where are these kids coming from? More or less. And, but, this is a good segue. Texas Chainsaw Massacre: The Next Generation. More like Texas Chainsaw Massacre Next Craperation. Oh my god. That movie. I was so disappointed. Especially when you had one of the people that helped write the freaking original movie on that thing. Okay, when it comes to Leatherface's first look in that movie, I don't mind that look. I'm not a fan of the mask, but I would rather, if someone had to tell me which look from Next Generation I would rather cosplay as, I would rather cosplay as that version of the Killing Mask costume versus what they did for the Pretty Woman. They really brought the Gein, the um, the Ed Gein influence with that look, and I wasn't a fan of it. I'm still not a fan of it. Actually, I'm not a fan of Leatherface. Really didn't do much. Michael McConaughey's character was the only thing good about that movie. And one other part, but I'm not going to get into that because I don't want my channel to get demonetized. But somehow this movie has its fans. I mean, I don't get it, but if people like it, they like it. I mean, I like I like I like the remake of A Nightmare on Elm Street, and that's probably the worst receiving remake of the what I like to call the big four of slasher villains. So I get it. So yeah, we're gonna skip talking about that movie anymore, and we're gonna move on to Texas. We're gonna We're gonna move to Texas Chainsaw or. Now, this movie in particular does have its haters. People don't like the fact that, despite the fact that, the movie happened in '74, the main character looks like a person in their, you know, mid to late 20s, early 30s. And the thing is that, there are people with good genetics. My family has has that. I remember once going to a casino and despite the fact that I was 18, I was carded. Yeah, yeah. Actually, I forgot what age I was actually. But some people might think of me making a freaking excuse for their, failure. But that's it is what it is. I also liked how that movie really focused on the whole family aspect. I thought that Dan, uh, that the gentleman that played Leatherface in that movie did a great job. He almost perfectly emulated what Gunnar Hansen did. Um, you know, and as much as a lot of people like to give that movie crap, I personally really enjoy it. But I do understand why it has its haters. But yeah, so let's move on to the prequel to the 1974 movie. And just in case our people are wondering on the timeline of these, I will explain it at the end. Um, Leatherface, the movie. It's not a perfect movie. It, it definitely makes you think which character is Leatherface. Um, I liked the fact that they focused on the family element, which is something that gets overlooked sometimes in these movies that they make. Um, I liked the idea of it being like a road trip movie, but a more like crazy road trip movie. I also found it interesting that Leatherface in this movie is named Jackson, which is kind of ironic. It's very ironic, actually. But my big problem is on who ends up becoming Leatherface. Well, who is Leatherface? To me, how they portrayed Leatherface in that movie goes against what Toby Hooper and Gunnar Hansen said in interviews. And just in case people are wondering what that is, I don't quite remember at the moment. I should have properly researched for this movie. Well, for this video. You guys can go look it up. Do I think that this prequel is better than the better than the Texas Chainsaw Massacre at the beginning? No, I don't. I think that the '06 prequel to the remake explains the origins of the Hewitts a lot better than this movie does. They didn't get John Dugan to play Grandpa in this movie, which was very disappointing. You know, the cast did well, especially the actors that they got to play Drayden and Nubbins. Overall, I enjoyed it, but it's definitely not one of my favorites. And now we get to Texas Chainsaw Massacre, the Netflix movie. Okay. Going off by memory. I enjoyed it. It's not one of my favorites. The protagonist in this movie really got on my nerves. I find it interesting that you could literally, assume what the message is of this. I would get more into that, but like I said, I don't want to risk YouTube demonetizing me. The bus slaughter scene I really enjoyed. The fact that no one successfully got away and survived was genius. I always like it when slashers do that because, when you have the final girl win every time, it does get predictable. But overall, I didn't mind that movie too much. Although I find it interesting how they use a poll in 306A when the fact that that whole chainsaw debate from 1974 is still being debated is kind of interesting because they used a 245, a Poland 245. The problem is that the 306A looks very similar to the 245, and I forgot what the difference is. I think it deals with the fuel tank, I think. I can't remember. I'm not a chainsaw. I'm not a chainsaw buff. Now, as for the timelines of these movies, I'm going to try my best to explain this as fast as I can. So you have what people dub as the original timeline, where you have Texas Chainsaw Massacre 1964, Texas Chainsaw Massacre Part 2, Texas Chainsaw Massacre 3, and the movie that shall not be named. It is also debated that Part 2, 3, and the movie that shall not be named is in its own timeline while still being sequels to the first movie. So that's really up to debate. Then you have what is dubbed as the 3D timeline, or the Lionsgate timeline, where you have Leatherface, Texas Chainsaw Massacre 1974, and then Texas Chainsaw 3D. And then you have the Netflix timeline, where Texas Chainsaw Massacre, where it's Texas Chainsaw Massacre 1974, and Texas Chainsaw Massacre, the Netflix movie. Oh yeah, there is one other thing I didn't like, was the fact that they brought Sally back. That was one other thing, because they literally tried to pull a Laurie Strode in Halloween 2018, which, when Sally didn't really fit the movie, in my opinion. Anyways, back to the timeline talk. And then you have the remake continuity in its own timeline, with Texas Chainsaw Massacre at the beginning. And now, if you want to include the game in this, the game takes place before the original, most likely in its own timeline, because naturally their last name is Slaughter, not Sawyer. And you could also assume that this movie could also take place in the movie that shall not be named timeline as well, because of their last name also being Slaughter. But yeah, you guys, that's it for this Texas Chainsaw Massacre discussion. I know that this movie, I know that this video not can get a lot of views, and I'm sorry if I messed up a lot of the wordings, or if I, went too fast or focused on something for too long. But yeah, you all know with my discussion videos, I keep them on rehearse, as they say. So, anyways, you guys, let me know what your opinion is on all the text. Let me know what. Oh my God, if I can get this out of me. Let me know your guys' opinion is on all the Texas Chainsaw Massacre movies, and let me know what is your favorite franchise when it comes to horror movies. So, anyways, you guys, take